Hello, good afternoon. Good evening, everyone, or magandang gabi para sa lahat ng mga nanonood sa Philippines right now. My name is Marilag Di Matulak, and I am the organizer of Azure User Group Manila. So thank you for joining us today. This is another edition of our online meetup. So we have a couple of events planned for the upcoming month. So I hope you can also join us at this time. I'm very excited for this session actually, because I have invited one of my really good friends, Waqas Ali from Maersk. He's a tech lead at Maersk, and he is going to share to you a really inspiring story about how to empower engineers by using self-service infrastructure as code. But before we proceed, I just want to walk you through about this event and also a couple of announcements. So I just want to invite everyone to submit your feedback. We have a survey so that we can get your opinion, and also maybe if you have good ideas on how we can improve our Azure User Group Manila events, please do send us your feedback. And Azure User Group Manila is a growing community, and you can find us on Twitter and Facebook, but mostly we post all our events primarily on Meetup. So please do register on Meetup because the Meetup group, we find we still have a lot of members coming, and then we can see who you are. We can talk to you directly through Meetup. But we also do have a Facebook group. Actually, we have two. We have a Facebook page where you can also, or maybe some of you are watching this, and that's a public page, but we also have a Facebook group. But for the Facebook group, you have to also sign up. And yeah, we're also on Twitter, so please do follow us to receive some of our announcements. And also for today, if you're watching, if you are one of the first 30 participants who claim your Azure Heroes Learner Badger. If you don't know anything about Azure Heroes, that's new for you, you can go and look up Azure Heroes. It's a sort of an initiative from Microsoft that rewards people who contribute content about Azure or join events or conferences so they can get the learner badger, or there are different kinds of badger that you can claim. For example, you can also become a Azure hero inclusive, what do you call that? I forgot the exact term, but sort of someone who's leading diversity and inclusion. You can also do that if you write a lot about a lot of content, blogs, for example, or posts on social media about Azure. You can also earn the Azure Hero, Azure Content Hero. So there are a couple of different awards that you can earn. So please do check that out as well. All right, so let's invite Waqas on stage now. Hi
Hello.
there, Waqas. Hi, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
I know it's lunchtime for us here in Denmark, so I appreciate that you are using your time to be with us, for our Filipino audience particularly. So there are probably also audience from outside the Philippines, but primarily Azure User Group Manila is directed towards Filipino professionals, and thank you for supporting our community.
Sure, you're welcome. I'm happy to be here today.
So, Waqas, tech lead at Maersk, can you tell us a little bit about your role?
Yeah, sure. So I am spending most of my time reading other people's code and fixing and trying to make new features in our. So basically, we have multiple teams scattered around the whole world, in Denmark, in India, in also now in Philippines. And so we are working together on our cloud management platform, and we're making some of the tools that I'll show you today. So I am responsible for these tools, and yeah, looking into these and putting stuff on Azure, taking care of stuff, making sure it works. Yeah.
Sounds like a very exciting role, also for such a big company like Maersk. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
very excited with this talk. How long have you been working for Maersk?
It's going to be almost 2 years very soon. So yeah, not very long ago I joined Maersk.
Yeah, but yeah, so let's start with your talk. If you
All
want to
right.
present your screen.
Sure. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Let me see if I can share the right screen. And I think I did.
Yes.
You see my presentation?
Yes, we do. All
Okay.
right, Waqas, I just want to remind our audience that you can ask questions anytime on the comments box. If you're on YouTube or on Facebook, we're watching it. So maybe at the end of the session, we can pull up some questions and we'll try to answer them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Marilag. So I'm going to start. We already talked about who I am. You can reach me on these channels, and yeah, I'm a technical lead at Maersk, and the tools that you're going to see next, we are making them. That's a part of the things that we do, and this part is that we are going to talk about today. It's really an important piece of infrastructure that we have. It really helped us to empower others so that they can go in and deploy their infrastructure into the cloud. So for the agenda for today is first we are going to take a look at what is infrastructure as code, and why do we need infrastructure as code. And then we will take a look at this tool called Terraform. And then we're going to look into some of things inside Terraform, different terminologies that Terraform uses. This is kind of an intro, a quick intro. Then we will talk about what is this thing called Stack, that and what tools that we have created, that we are trying to empower others, the other engineering teams across Maersk, and how we have taken this concept of infrastructure as code combined with the Terraform and created some tools around it. And then in the end, there will be some time for questions. So let's get started. So before I jump into all the discussions of infrastructure as code, let us see in the past how we used to deploy web apps. If you remember, a lot of years back, I think some people are still doing it. Whenever you need, let's take an example of a web app. So if you need a web app, you need a server where to host the web app, and then some database that is connected to the web app. So this is a very simple example. I call it a classic example. And then someone will go ahead and maybe put something on the servers, and then put some configuration on top, and then now let's say your server is ready for hosting a web application. So this whole thing that was done, that was manual work. Of course, you could write scripts to do some things, but still there was a lot of manual work involved. Now imagine if this all scenario you have to do in Azure. So I took this diagram from Azure, from their infrastructure, a very simple web app with some very simple stuff, blob storage, app service plan, the usual stuff, the function app running. So if this, you have to make this app in this way. So you would have to go into Azure and click around and deploy stuff, add stuff to it. So all the things you can do which you used to do in the old days, on the servers. Now you can do in Azure, in the cloud, and deploy by clicking buttons around. But there's a better way to do it, and that is called infrastructure as code. So what that means is that you do the same deployment like these ones, but this time you do it in code. So you would write everything down as code, and of course there is a way to write it, and then suddenly all of your infrastructure is written down in code, which is going to be very fast and consistent, because you will be sure that you will, if you don't make any change to the code, then obviously it's going to be the same things deployed every time you make the deployment, no matter whatever tool you use. And then imagine if I give you this this architecture and you have to deploy it in 4 different environments, so that means that it will take 4 times the time that it takes for one environment. But if it's in code, then it's the same code or configuration that you can use and just change one variable for the target environment or deploy it into different environments. So it's pretty scalable. You can add and remove stuff to it. You can add more infrastructure things. Maybe you can add a database to it in the code, or remove a database for development, or add more function apps for production. So this is highly scalable in this manner. And then the good part is that you will get the same result every time you deploy, as long as you don't make any changes to the code. So you write once all the your infrastructure into the code, put it in some version controlling system. So in a way, you get a blueprint of your infrastructure, and since it's code, so you can treat it as any other code you have. So you can call it, let's say, I'm just giving an example here. So maybe you can call it a version 1 of your infrastructure. So you know in version 1 you have X number of apps and X number of databases, and in version 2 maybe you have X times 2 number of databases. And the good part is that the tool that you choose to deploy this will help you out in all of these things. All you have to do is to write it once and then add or remove items on top of it as you go. So another good part about this is that the disaster recovery is very fast and easy. Of course, you have to come up with a disaster recovery plan yourself, but imagine if something goes bad, if you lose a database, you have to recreate for any reason. You have everything written in code. You don't have to go back, and you just redeploy your code with the tool that you're using, and you're done. So this is a very quick introduction to the infrastructure as code. But the next discussion is about which tool to use for this. So we decided some time ago to use Terraform. There are other tools here. You can see there's Chef, Puppet, Ansible, but we decided to use Terraform, and there were a couple of reasons why we did it. It's because it was open source. A lot of other tools are still open source, but the good thing is that it provides you with immutability. So every time you deploy, you get the same result. You cannot change the infrastructure. If you want to make a change, you will make a new version, and then, of course, change your infrastructure. But once you have decided, you finalize something, it will be the same version every time. And it uses a declarative language, and it's using a client-only thing. It's not a server-client thing. So Terraform, it also has a very nice documentation provided. I personally like it. Maybe you will like other Ansible's documentation better, but I think Terraform provides nice documentation, very nice examples. They have a public registry. So there's a lot of help for you on the internet, and it's being used in a wider audience, so you can find a lot of examples. So in Terraform, we have a concept of resources. So everything inside is a small block of a resource, and these resources are actually some infrastructure objects. For example, a compute instance or a DNS record or a virtual network, could be anything. And these resources are provided by some providers. So you are familiar with these companies here. There are tons of other providers. I just listed them here, which are the ones that are widely used. So for example, if you want to use some Azure related stuff, you have to use an Azure provider. And you can also implement your own if you want to. So the next thing online for Terraform is a very important thing called modules. It's actually, a module is a container of different resources put together in a container, not just like putting together in code. Let's put it like that. And then modules are reusable. So imagine if you create a module for yourself, and then anybody else can use it. They can add and remove stuff, create a new version out of it. So you can, the reusability and the sharing part is very good. That's what I'm going to talk about later on. That's what we leveraged and made a lot of other tools on top of it. So the Terraform modules, a very high level overview of Terraform module is that it has some inputs and it has some resources in the middle, and then it has some outputs. It might not have some outputs, uh, but it always has some one or many resources inside. So now it was a quick intro to what Terraform is. Of course, you can read about it on the Terraform website. But now let me explain what we did on the reusability part. So we created some tool chain on top of what was already provided. So let's start with these two actors in the system. We call them contributors and we call them consumers. So imagine if you as you are in a big enterprise and you want to deploy infrastructure on daily basis or on a recurring theme, then you would need some kind of a way to get hold of these modules. So we have these two basic actors. One is the contributor and one is the consumer. So the consumers are the one who are going to use who need some kind of infrastructure. They need to deploy stuff. They could be the same person, but let's, for the sake of discussion here, keep them separate. And then we have some contributors here. These are the people who will make these modules. And then when the modules are made by these contributors, we have some engineers and some security people. These contributors are talking to these people and getting constant feedback. And then they're also looking into some EA principles, some cloud principles, and some secure by design principles, and then applying them into the module. And then once the module is in the line of publish, the contributors create a pull request. That pull request is going to be reviewed by a team of other contributors or engineers who understand what's going on. So there's a group of people, a lot of people who are looking into these things. And once everybody agrees and the pull request is approved, the final product is secure by design, and it's exactly made as we would like it to be. People like engineers and security people have no concerns left. Then it goes and makes its way into the infrastructure registry. So the registry we have, it's an internal registry that it's based on the Terraform also provides a public registry. But we have our own registry where when the module is finalized, it is just pushed into the registry, and we have an API layer around the registry, which is you can call it to get the modules and uh, all the normal getters and get lists of the modules implementations. So now when this is published and it makes its way into the registry, then the consumers can come in and consume and deploy whatever module from this registry, and knowing that this is safe and this is using the governed way of so the governance is already placed and security is in place, so they are safe. They know that whatever they're using from the registry, it's already approved and safe to use. So you can go and pick and choose and deploy and start generating value out of it. This is a very central piece here in all this tool chain, the infrastructure registry. And I will quickly show you later on in a demo how this looks like in the UI. We have created some UI layer on top of the APIs that people can go and read about these modules and how they look like and what is required and what's not required. So this is the reusability part of the modules, that how we build modules, how we make them, put them into the registry. And then once you think that, okay, this module has been outdated, I have to update it, you can go and update the module. we're using semantic versioning, so you have to upgrade the version with the right version, and then follow the same procedure, put it in the registry. And then the next concept we came up with is a stack, which is actually multiple modules joined together. So imagine if you are making this app, the one that I showed earlier, it would be multiple modules joined together. So Azure Function is a module, an app service plan, and blob storage combined together. This would be a stack. So in this case, the e-commerce app stack contains all of these things. So you would take this in form of code and then use Terraform with the runtime that we have provided and deploy it. And then our whole runtime will use the tool chain provided to deploy all of this for you. And you don't have to do anything except of writing the code for all of this. So once you're done, then you can use the same thing in different environments. Maybe you don't need Redis in development or test environments. Maybe you will remove some other things. Maybe you will add some things for production. But it's very easy to do once you have all of this in code. So the benefits that you get out of it is when you do this is time to infrastructure is going to be decreased significantly. Uh, because imagine if you have to do this manually, it is going to take, let's say, you're pretty good at it and you can do all of this in 2 hours. But if it's, I mean, 2 hours is a very generous time that I came up with. But if it's 4 environments, it's 8 hours at least you have to spend to make this. And then if something goes bad, then you have to redo this. But now it's a matter of couple of minutes. If you can write your code once, spend time writing code, and then do it and give it to others, they can also reuse it. And then the governed provision of resources. So the governance is already in place. We know what we are using, how we are using it. Reusability is increased. So if your team writes it, any other team can go ahead and start using it. And if they don't like it, they can add or remove stuff, create a new version, and put it into the registry, and they can start using it. And then this chain goes on and on. And these are, of course, secure and reliable modules. And we know that whatever we are using is made for us. So we are not taking something that we are not sure about. And it also simplified the infrastructure deployments. Now, because you have everything in code, you know what exactly what version I'm deploying and what environment I'm deploying to. And the disaster recovery is also it's fast and easy because it's infrastructure as code. You can get back if you have a good disaster recovery plan. You can get up and back in a matter of hours, if not minutes. So this was some talk. Let me show you quickly some of these tools in action. So the infrastructure registry, we created this UI where you can see all of these modules that we have. And then if you want to go and read about some module, you can go in and read about it, what it does. And this is a demo. It's not a production level module. It's just a demo. So you can see that, but the production also looks similar. So there's some descriptions, some things here that you can read about it. If there's any outputs that it generates, if there's any inputs that you want to provide, they will appear here. And then this is a quick intro to our registry in the UI. And the next thing is this concept of stacks that I told you about. So the stacks are something. So this is our cloud management system, this is doing a lot of other things. So I'm just showing you a part of it, which is relevant for this talk. So we have this concept of stacks, and this is basically a container for all the modules. And I have already made a stack for the demo purposes. So if I can go here and I can show you this stack, you can see here it has only 2 modules inside: resource group and app service plan. And then you have here all the input variables, and here you have the output variables. So these are the input variables that I have to provide values, and it will create whatever value that I want to create as output variable. I have to provide it here. And then I can add the modules from the registry. So there's tons of modules here, and I can maybe add something, uh, anything from the list here, and then start assigning. So I want uh, this and this as I want to provide um, as input variables, and then I can decide if I want to have some output variables, and then the list goes on, and this gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and I think you get the point. So in order for you to make this look like a real app, you can go ahead, find the module. If the module is not there, you're welcome to write it yourself. And then once you're done, you save it. And once it's saved, the next step for you is to go ahead and publish this. So the way we publish it is we go to services. We have this concept of services where you implement, you pick up a stack and publish that. So you create a service, and then uh, you go ahead and uh, select connections. That is the connection to your code repository. In our case, it's Azure DevOps. And then you select the stack, provide the input variables. So this was done, this was already published, this stack. So that's why you see this check mark here. And then you have to provide all the input variables, the values. And then something interesting here is that we also give you, so this tool also asks you if you want to create a pull request directly in Azure DevOps, which is selected through by default. And also, we run a Terraform plan, which is a very awesome thing to do, because you not only create a pull request, this tool not only creates this pull request for you, but also runs Terraform plan for you. A Terraform plan is a command which you use to prepare your deployment. So you have two phases in your deployment in Terraform. One is Terraform plan, and then the other one is Terraform deploy. So when you are done with your planning, when you're ready with your code, you run Terraform plan. It gives you an outline of this is how your infrastructure will look like in the end. If you're happy, then you go ahead and apply those changes. And then you select the version of Terraform, and then save and publish. And then it will appear a check mark here. It says this one is already published. So this is a new service here. You can select this stack here, and then you can select what language you want to use. We provide HCL, the HashiCorp language in JSON, and then select a version, and whatever version you choose, it will show you the input variables that you have exposed in the earlier stage. In this stage. So in this tool called Composer, we are writing these UI stacks. So this is kind of a no-code, low-code tool that gives you ability to write your infrastructure in the UI. So if you're not very good with code, we give you the option to do it do this UI thing and create your infrastructure in the UI. But if you are good with coding, then you have other options. So this one, you can just add stuff, and it will create the code for you, and you can download this code and uh, just run this code in your local machine, or take it to the server, whatever you want. But you can use our toolchain here. So like this, and then you select these input variables. So these input variables are these guys, and you provide the values, choose the correct things you want, save and publish. Once you do that, it will take some time and create a pull request for you. And then the next step, the UI part is done. Then you would have to go to, let me take you here. And then once your pull request is merged in, then this is going to show you, this is an old deployment I'm showing you. I'm not going to do it right now, so I just took out an old example of how things look like. So it runs this plan for you, and then it runs the apply phase for you. So first, it's going to run the plan stage automatically. If it's successful, it's going to go ahead and deploy everything for you once your pull request is merged in. And all of this code and all of these pipelines we are generating for you. You don't have to write anything. If you are not good with the code, you can use this whole tool chain without writing any piece of code. So we're going to create pull request here for you, and we are going to run the Terraform plan on top of it. If you're happy, merge your pull request, and then you will have everything deployed in Azure, uh, depending on the amount of infrastructure you have. If you have a lot of things, it will take some time to finish, and then you will be done. So this was a very quick intro to the tools that we have created, and this gives us the opportunity for the developers all around Maersk, so that they can come in, pick and choose whatever module from the registry, and then they can go ahead and deploy whatever they want. So yeah, that was my quick demo and presentation. Over to you, Marilag.
Hi, Waqas. Thank you very much. So let's wait for some of our participants to ask their questions. You can put that in the comment box if you're on YouTube or Facebook. You can ask Waqas anything related to his talk, of course, and maybe anything about infrastructure, how they do infrastructure as code and Terraform and cloud engineering at Maersk. Waqas should be able to also answer your questions. While waiting for that, I have a couple of questions, actually. So first of all, it's very interesting. You showed us how to do low-code infrastructure as code process. So in your experience, do developers normally use the low-code one, like the UI for drag and dropping the different modules to build a stack, or are they more using the code or writing code for their infrastructure?
Yeah, so it depends on the persons. If you are a Terraform guy and if you have been using Terraform for a long time, you would prefer code and not the UI part. So we also have, I have not shown that, but we also have that in place. So what we do is we generate a repo we all ask for a connection to your repo, and then we create code for you, like a template code for you, where you can go ahead, and we don't put anything there, so you can go ahead and start coding yourself. But it depends on most of the time the people who want to use our tools. So a lot of people are using no code solution because previously they needed someone who understands all this. But now, after spending some time with the Terraform and how infrastructure as code works, they can also write it. They can also write their infrastructure in the UI. So they're also happy about it. But the advanced developers, let's call them, they still prefer and always prefer code, and that is fine. So we are supporting both type of users, and we have both. To be honest, we have both kind of users in Maersk who would like to go for either UI or either code.
Yeah, thank you for that, which is a good thing. Also, if there are infrastructure people watching this show, and I know that there are some of them who thinks like, why do I have to start writing in code now this way? So this is a message that you don't always have to. There is other way to build your infrastructure and automate provisioning your infrastructure by using other means. Yeah. We have a question from the audience. Hi, John. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to show your question. So, yeah, are you aware if there's any plan to offer other ways of coding infrastructure than YAML? For example, AWS provides a way to write infra with C# or TypeScript.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. C#, that's my go-to language, and TypeScript for the front end. Not right now, not with us. We are still using. We started with JSON, Not a lot of people like it, to be honest. So we added a HashiCorp language because we are using Terraform. So we have two options. We have to use HCL or we have to use JSON. And HCL is the go-to language for everybody. So for now, we don't have a plan to provide C# or TypeScript.
Okay. So, and then we have another question from Margaret. It's a great presentation of Terraform. I really appreciate it. Are you using just the open source or also use the enterprise version?
We are using both, but we are using our own Terraform state. So there you can use state from Terraform Cloud, or you can do your own. So we are actually doing our own, but it's the tools that you see right now. They were open source.
All right. I hope that answered your question, Margaret. And we have another one from Pau, I'm guessing, or Cyber Pau. Can you describe your team? Do you have a ops team, dev team, DevOps, SRE, platform engineers, etc.? What are the ideal team for you, and what are their responsibilities? That's a very good question.
It's a very good question. Yes. Do you have an ops team? Yes. Dev team? Yes. DevOps? Yes. SRE? Yes. And we are platform engineers? Yes. So all of the questions, I have a yes for you. We have, so in Maersk, we focus on uh, a lot of focus on DevOps, and now the focus is on DevSecOps, but let's stick to DevOps. We prefer, that's why I had this word empowerment in the in my talk. That is the focus of our tool chain, is the empowering others. We prefer teams to be self-managing, and DevOps is the ideal situation that we would go to. So whenever someone is coming in, we would like them to create it and then support it themselves. So we are not we don't want to be a blocker for anybody. But in my team, I prefer all of these things. So not just developers, we are also ops people. We are actually doing that. A lot of things. We are doing a lot of SRE in our team as well, and development and operations. So yeah, it's all of the things. Like let's call it a full stack things.
Thank you, Waqas. But about just to follow up on this question, the members of their teams, are they sort of cross-functional, like your developers also act as or DevOps, or also can do site reliability engineering, or you have different sort of functions or sub-teams for each of this purpose?
So Maersk is big, right? So there are different dedicated people doing dedicated things. There is a whole ops thing going on that is completely separate from this one. But what I am a part of it, the things that I'm responsible for, we are doing everything DevOps. And we, when we look for people, we look for people who know these things. It's not just developers who are. We're also looking for those developers who sit behind the screen and just write code, but we prefer people with development knowledge, coding knowledge, and also some SRE capabilities. And I myself was a developer who is always sitting behind the screen. Then I changed that, converted myself to do a lot of ops things. And now the focus for myself and the team is to have more insights into the SRE capabilities.
All right, thank you for that. Do we have any other questions from our participants? I wish we have more time, Waqas, but I know that this is also your lunch break, so I'm gonna just cut it short a bit. I have tons of questions, but maybe if our members have also questions, they can just reach out to you 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 have your contact here in this presentation. You are in LinkedIn, I guess, and also are you also on Twitter?
On Twitter, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you can try to reach out to Waqas if you have more questions. But thank you very much for your time here today, and thank you very much to our members who joined us. And I really wish everyone a nice day, and a nice day for us, Waqas here in Denmark, and magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat sa Pilipinas. Salamat po.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Have a nice day, everybody.